What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Point2Point NHL Recap Show, Season 2, Episode 18. I'm Pascal Pryor, joined by Mark Avrilak, and today we're going to go into depth in the Four Nations Face-Off tournament that just wrapped up. We're a little late with this episode. I was down on vacation down south. I don't know if you can see this massive tan line on my forehead. It's not the best, so that's what's going on with
see that a bit.
What's going on with you, though, Mark? How have you been, buddy?
Not too bad, dude. Just watched basically every minute of every second of that tournament. Blew my expectations away. I thought it was a whole great event. Even happier that Canada ended up getting the W in the end. Besides that, dude, just kind of getting back in the groove of the NHL here the past couple days. And, dude, we've got the deadline in like 10 fucking days. Yep. So it's going to be pretty chaotic here in the NHL. But glad you had a good vacation. But, yeah, let's get into this Four Nations recap.
Yeah, so the first game, it was Canada versus Sweden. Canada won a 4-3 in overtime. Man, that was a great kickoff to the tournament for me, dude. Having the opening goal in the tournament be McDavid, Crosby, and McKinnon all getting points on that and sort of linking up there for that first goal of the tournament. Like, bro, you couldn't have written that story any better even if you tried. What a perfect kickoff to the tournament. For me, I liked what I was seeing from Team Canada. It was a little close going to overtime. Like, you sort of wish maybe you won by a goal or two and didn't need to go to overtime, but I sort of liked the performance from Canada opening up the tournament. Mark, how did you feel about that opening game?
It was definitely a good way to open the tournament, 100%. Good, even with that goal being like in the first minute on the power play, like not even 10 seconds into the power play or whatever it was. Canada looked like they were kind of in complete control of most of that game. I feel like they may have let their foot off the gas a little bit there in the third period, at least early on. But I do personally believe as well that Binnington was a reason they got to overtime. Like, two of those three goals were completely stoppable pucks, in my opinion. I felt like when Canada made the push late, I don't know if you really remember that Devon Taves shot where Gustafsson kind of robbed him, like that blocker. It was almost like a wide open net. There was like 5 minutes left. So Canada made some pushes late. Gustafsson looked really good late, and that's what forced OT. That OT to kick it off too, man, was pretty good because we also had some of the best players in the world just on the ice, right? Where it's like you're not getting that in the NHL. You have a mixture of it, right? But with this, it's like almost like there's an elite player on the ice every single shift, right? In OT. And then we also had the experience of it being expanded to a 10-minute overtime. Marner got the winner there. I think there was 4 minutes left. So in a regular NHL game, that's going to a shootout, right? So how do you feel about Marner getting it done in OT there? Because to be honest with you, I thought for most of that game he looked pretty bad. But then he came to shine when he doesn't usually, right? So that's my one question. And two, what are your thoughts on the overtime format? Like, would you want to see 10? Would you want to see it stay the same, or even like the ECHL to 7 if they don't want to up it all the way to 10? What do you think?
So, yeah, I like the 10 minutes because you're getting the action, and nobody really likes to see a game ended in shootout anymore, right? Like, it's not that fun seeing the shootouts. So you want to have the most action as possible. And if you're in the NHL, right, like where you have a bunch of viewers that haven't watched hockey before and are tuning in for the first time over this tournament, I think it was a perfect thing to test out having the 10-minute overtime because, look, like a tournament like this where it's a one-off tournament, this is where it's a good opportunity to try things and see if it does work. And based off like a lot of the viewership numbers, it seems like a lot of this stuff was working. For regular season, 10 minutes of 3-on-3, I like it. The only thing with 3-on-3 is just it's like constant regroup, right? So like maybe with 10 minutes, it could get a little bit tiring if you have 2 shots on goal over 10 minutes just because it's constant regroup, puck possession, really trying for that great opportunity. And for Mitch Marner, like I kind of agree with you, man. He had a slow start to that game. I think in overtime, bro, like the big thing with Marner is he is not a shoot first player. He's a pass first player, right? And over his entire career, there's been times where fans, even other players, are going berserk because it's like he has a great opportunity to shoot the puck, but he'll sort of look it off to find the open guy, where sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it is better just for him to shoot the puck. And that overtime goal, you could see it. That was a great time for him to shoot the puck. He made the right choice there, and he beat Gustafsson to win the game for Canada. And that ended up being, outside of the finals, the most important win for Team Canada in this tournament, right?
Yeah.
What do you like? Do you like the 10 minutes though of overtime, or
I do. Like I'm kind of on the side with you where I don't really love games ending in shootouts. I will say though, like for some people, especially if you haven't experienced them a lot, like they are pretty interesting. Like imagine you didn't really watch hockey and then you see it comes down to like just like a bunch of breakaways, like one-on-one versus the
yeah,
goalie. Like I could see that, and it is interesting at times, right? Like it's not like it's not that I'm like every time there's a shootout, I'm like, oh, but I can't lie. Like when the Habs go to a shootout, I'm just like, oh, like I don't really love it. I always want them to win just because the points matter. But I think if you could eliminate the shootout as like more than you already are now, like I'm for it. The only thing is that the players like have to agree to the change because
yeah,
it would be in the next CBA and it's actually like because it's like more playing time. You know what I mean? It's not just a rule the NHL can enforce. So it would have to come down to a vote. I think. I don't know if I see them going right to 10, but I wonder if they consider going to like 7 or maybe even 8. But that'll still eliminate a bunch of shootouts, dude. Like
yeah.
I think it'll go up at least like 7-8% of the amount of shootouts that you wouldn't have anymore if they expanded it to even 7 minutes.
And as you mentioned, it has to be agreed on in the CBA. Like, I get the players are gonna have to agree to that, but if you're the players and you're sitting there and it's like, okay, if we go to 3-on-3 for 10 minutes in overtime, it's gonna help grow the game, which is gonna raise the salary cap over time, which means I'm gonna make more money and have more money in my pocket at the end of the day, right? Like as a player, you'd think they would sort of agree to that if it's an extra 5 minutes a night you're playing. Like, and
True,
how
but
many?
I also like I don't think like people are taking in. I feel like if you like, yeah, the big guys are going to play a lot, especially in OT, but like teams will be forced to use more depth.
Yeah,
I think, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm kind of for it too, to see like some different guys out there in overtime and stuff like that. You might see a lot more like important like centermen who are usually in the bottom of the lineup, like out there for draws and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I'm for it. I just don't personally see them going right to 10. I feel like I just don't know if the players would agree to like double it right away. But I could see them maybe going to like 7 if some of them are kind of just fed up on like the shootout. Because I don't know how it works with that, right? Like, say every single player like in the league got a vote. Like say if you played a certain amount of games the year before, you get a vote or something. It's like, dude, like I don't know, man. Like, is Chris Tanev really like he's gonna have more of a chance to play in OT than shooting the shootout too, right? So it's like
yeah.
he might be voting more for more OT. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, some guys that are playing a lot might be like, dude, I'm already bagged. Like, I don't want more OT. But I'd be curious to know how it works and like what way the votes would go.
Yeah, it'll be definitely something to keep an eye on as we go forward, as the next CBA sort of starts to get discussed here in the near future. Let's move on and talk about game two of the tournament. It was USA versus Finland. USA, it was all USA this entire game. They beat Finland 6-1. The Kachuk brothers, man, they were impressive in this game.
Do
They
you think it was
combined,
the entire game though, dude? Because I felt like Finland stuck in this game pretty good until the third period. Like
it
with it
really,
only being 2-1, like I felt like they were playing pretty hard. Like I still felt like the States were playing better, but I think the floodgates just kind of opened, and I felt like Saros kind of put up a stinker there to start the third.
I agree with that. The first two periods were a bit closer. That third period, though, is really where the USA completely ran away with it. The Kachuk brothers, man, they showed out in international play. Combined 5 points for them in this game alone. And UC Soros, as you mentioned, he sort of got lit up in the third period a bit there. He played the whole game, and he finished with a .813 save percentage. He did not look good, especially in that third period. Um, we were sort of talking about it, Mark, texting back and forth when we were watching this game. Did Team Finland fuck up by letting Soros play the entire game, or like should they have pulled him at some point there?
That's what I was watching the game with my buddy live, and I was thinking that I was like, why don't they? My coaches have different kind of methods when they're doing this, right? So if you see Saros is playing bad, he's probably either one thinking, okay, we're not giving him the start next game, and I'll just let him ride out this game. And then we'll give it to Lankinen. Um, I was more of the side of like, why don't you throw in a guy for the last 18 minutes, see how he does, and then you can really make the judgment on if he's good. Whoever comes in, I guess it was Lankinen, like give him the start next game. But coaches also could think like maybe the way he was thinking was like, fuck, if I throw in Lankinen right now and he gets lit up, then like both of our goalies have like zero confidence right now, right?
Yep.
I guess you can say it worked out because they won the next game. But like all throughout the tournament, I felt like their goaltending wasn't very good. But also at the same time, we talked about how their D weren't very strong either. But I just felt like, dude, that States game, like I honestly felt like Saros could have saved like 4 of those goals. Like I really do. Like even that first Brady Tkachuk one, like it was like a play at the net, like where Tkachuk, it was almost like a cross crease pass. He tries to put it in. Saros like makes the save, and then he's like out of his net, so he's out of position. The puck goes right behind the goal line. Tkachuk bounces off him and in. It's like, yeah, he was out making a save first, but he also, like, as a goalie, I see he overslid and then he put himself in a bad position, right? Yeah. And then it's like to open the third period, it's like that Tkachuk wrist shot from the fucking blue line, terrible goal. Even the next goal, 3-on-2, like Gensel had the puck for 2 to 3 seconds before he shot it. Saros had so much time to set up. It just squeaks through his low blocker. And then even it's like the next one, the Tkachuk one, where it was like not the breakaway, but Eichel passed it to him. He made one deke and it went in. Dude, all he did was go to his backhand and slid it like under his pad. It's like Saros's pad wasn't even on the ice. So it was like, I just really wasn't impressed with the goals that he let in. But I even felt like Lankinen played okay against Sweden, but like I didn't really think he stood on his head or anything, right? But if it was my call, I guess to answer your question, like I probably would have put Lankinen in after the 5th goal because they scored 3 goals in 3 minutes to open the third period.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Like in the moment, I think if I was the coach, I probably would have put Lankinen in as well. The more I look back at this, though, I almost wonder if going into the tournament they had a set plan where Saros was getting USA game 1 and then Lankinen was going game 2, no matter what happened. Which is maybe partially why they did leave Saros, and it's like we don't want Lankinen.
Are you a little bit surprised at all that Lankinen was the number 2 over Luukkonen? Because I can't lie, I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say Lankinen's probably been the better goalie this year, but Luukkonen's been doing it for a little bit longer. Like Lankinen's been more of a backup, right? But
I guess the thing with that though is you ride the hot hand, right? Like Lankinen in Vancouver this year has really stepped up with Demko's absence, so it's like you might as well. And it sort of paid off for him now. As he just got that extension as well, so good for him.
But even if they put Lankinen in the last 18 minutes and say USA scored like 3 goals, won like 8-1, it's like, dude, then like this might sound crazy, but go to fucking Luukkonen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, if neither of your goalies can figure it out, fuck it. Use the third one. Like, I that's why you got 3. Like, I don't know. I have a different mentality with goaltending. I usually give goalies more of a shorter leash than coaches do. Like, I'm kind of like, sometimes a 3rd or 4th goal, I'm kind of like seeing trends where I'm like, okay, this isn't like his fucking night. Like, get him out. Like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's not even the goalie. Like, it sparks the team. Like, I don't think that's what coaches realize. It's just like, even when sometimes goalies aren't playing bad, like I've seen goalies where they've let in 4 goals and like none of them are their fault and they get pulled. And it's like, it's almost like this guy doesn't even deserve, like he shouldn't even be in net tonight because his team's letting him down so much. Like get him the fuck out of the net and see if this like wakes the team up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because then it's also like, think about it. It's almost like, in a way, it's like the goalie's being benched, right? So, like, if you bench a goalie when he's playing well, like, the team might be like, holy shit, like, this guy's playing good and he's getting fucking taken out of the game. Like, we need to figure it out here, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean with that. I really just don't know what Finland was sort of thinking with their coaching staff in this tournament. I really do think they maybe had just like a strong set sort of rotation they wanted to go with, and they just didn't want to break that. That for me, that's the only thing that would make sense on why you don't pull Saros in that game. So
yeah,
if they didn't have that schedule, then like that's not really great coaching at all. The next game, it was the two Saturday games. I loved how they did this, where you kick it off with Sweden, Finland, and you have that rivalry, and then you have USA, Canada after, and have the two rivalry games coming on the Saturday, right? I absolutely love that. The first game though, it was Finland, Sweden. Finland upset Sweden with a 4-3 overtime win. Granlund scored the OT winner. Dallas probably sort of likes what they're seeing with him and how he performed at this tournament. What do you make of that game, though?
I was a bit surprised, man. Like I like Finland. I think Finland played a lot harder than people gave them credit for, dude. I really do. Even though a couple of the games weren't pretty, like goals against wise, like they stayed in there pretty hard. That was a bit of a mess of a first period, if I don't remember. There was a bunch of weak fucking goals that went in. Like Zibanejad literally got gifted the puck in front of the net, 5-hole that opened the scoring. And then Gustafsson, I don't know if you remember, there was like a cross crease pass where his 5-hole was wide open, and then he let in that real squeaker on the post to Rantanen, and he got pulled after the first, right? I think he let in 2-on-4 shots, and then he didn't come out for the second. Allmark came in. I thought that was a pretty solid game though, all around. Like I kind of felt like almost like the rivalry between Sweden and Finland in that. Like, did you not? Like I felt like it, like also too with like the 1 p.m. game, like being prime time for them back home. Like I don't know, man. I thought it was good, and I did not like. I was shocked that Finland won, dude. Like maybe not progressively throughout the game once it was going on, but I just felt like once when Sweden came back against Canada and then lost, I was like, man, I feel like they're gonna like come out fucking hard. I felt like it was gonna be like a 4-1, 5-1 game for Sweden.
Honestly, I didn't watch as much of this game. I was sort of having my little midday nap here as I had a pretty late night on a Saturday night with work, so I didn't get to watch too much of that game. But from the highlights and what I saw, like for me, the biggest thing with Finland was like Granlund. We've seen what he's done so far in the NHL this year, and like he's played really well, right? Putting up points on that San Jose team. Now going to Dallas and going to get his opportunity there. But on the international stage, like he really stepped it up as well. He was probably Finland's best player throughout this entire tournament, right?
Dude, he played great, man.
A team that really has good. Barkov, Aho, Rantanen. You're talking about Granlund probably being Team Finland's MVP. Like, I think Dallas is super excited for what they're bringing in with him. Let's move on and talk about the primetime game. Man, this one, it did not disappoint whatsoever. It was USA versus Canada. Unfortunately, Canada came out on the bottom. But hey, man, 3 fights within the first 9 seconds of the game. How electric was that start?
Dude, it was fucking crazy, man. I didn't even really like take in what was happening. Like I don't know about you. Like sometimes like when shit like not even like that happens, but when like something just happens in life and it's so like unexpected and shit, like I just feel like I'm in the middle of like a dream. Like it's kind of crazy. Like to be honest, when the Habs went on the cup run like 4 years ago, like I felt that way for like 2 months. Like I was like waking up and like going to like I was like tuning in. I'm like, dude, the Habs are in the fucking conference finals right now. Like, what is happening? And like, honestly, man, I try to enjoy those moments. Like the fact that we had the other one, like the Parayko one after too, was just like, holy shit, dude. Like this is fuck. Like it made the wait for this game of how long we've actually waited over the years like so worth it, in my opinion. Like man, like the fact that we're gonna experience this. Well, I don't know what the divisions look like in the Olympics, but they could be playing in the Olympics next year, and just like going forward, that like we could potentially have this like every second year, with the World Cup is like makes me so excited for the future of this dude. Like, in the fact that like McDavid opens the scoring, like I mean that was huge hype, but like talking about the rest of the game, I felt like the States did a fucking tremendous job in shutting down Canada, dude. Yeah. But I also feel like Canada wasn't looking their best, but also sometimes you can't really be your best when you're getting shut down that good, right? Like I felt like McKinnon was so off on Saturday, dude. Like it wasn't even funny.
The USA played super physical in that game, dude. No Kale McCarr either, which was a massive loss for
Yeah.
Team Canada, right? Like we're already talking about team going into the tournament. Already talking about Team Canada's back end and sort of saying like the U.S. Might be a little better, and then Petrangelo gets injured, right? Like he's not playing at the tournament, and then you have no Kale McCarr now going up against the USA. Like that back end was super depleted. Um, Funny enough though, for this game, man, I missed the two fights at the start of the game. So the only fight I saw was the JT Miller fight, eh, Mark? I am
Wow.
I started work at 8:30 that night, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll be able to watch the start of the hockey game, and then I'm like, oh man, there's puck drop's not gonna be till like 8:30, right? Dude, it's like 8:20, like a couple minutes before puck drop. I'm like, man, I gotta shit so bad, bro. Dude, I go to the shitter, take a shit, bro. I come back, I look at my TV, and it's the you know the shot on TV when it's Brady or Matthew Kachuk in the box, he's smacking the glass out while Brady's skating over.
Yeah. And they
Dude,
like
I'm
dabs them up after or whatever.
dude, I'm walking into my room and that's on the TV. I'm like, no way, what did I miss, man? Thought I'd be back
You
in time
miss
for
you
puck
missed a pretty
drop.
fucking good part of that, man.
But yeah, the start of that game, it was electric, man. Team Canada, I don't think they looked their best. Team USA was just so physical in that game, and you could tell Kale McCarr missing was a, a bit of a negative factor for Team Canada. The other thing is Binnington in that game. He was getting a lot of heat afterwards for the Jake Gensel goal, right? Like a lot of people were saying he should have had that
Dude, I didn't think
one.
the Larkin goal was good either. Like it was a nice shot, low blocker, but he was far out, man.
Yeah.
Like
So
I felt like he kind of like it's really hard to say you lose because you're goalie when you let in two goals, but I really feel like they were two stoppable pucks.
yeah, it was definitely a rough night for Team Canada and Canadians all around our countries. We were really stressing after that game.
I
Next up,
was, man. I was
it
nervous.
it was redemption time for Team Canada. It was Team Canada versus Finland, and this game was if Canada wins in regulation, they're in. No ifs, ands, or buts. Team Canada they won 5-3, but they gave Canadians a little bit of a worry towards the end of the game. In the third period, they were up 4-0, and then they gave up three straight goals to Finland. Mark, what did you think about that game?
Man, Canada was in control of that game for the first like 53 minutes. Like it was
Yeah,
crazy. Um, they kind of let their foot off the gas a bit, and it almost bit them, man. It almost bit them in the ass. Finland pushed back hard. Um, like I feel like most of the game was what I expected until that last little bit there. Um, yeah, I mean, like it was. I guess it was just like the more clear game. I thought Canada was winning. Like they came out really hot, got a couple early goals. Bennington did look good early on. Um, I think Lankinen started that game right, and then Saros
yeah,
came in.
yeah.
I mean,
Lincoln
it
did
wasn't
start.
really there wasn't really much on Lankin in there, but I mean, pretty good game overall. Sid kind of iced it off there at the empty netter. McDavid opened the scoring in that game too. I think he didn't he open the scoring in was it 2 or 3 games? No, McKinnon opened the scoring in the finals, but yeah, McDavid scored in two straight games, opened the scoring. I don't know, man. Like I like it was just like not that it was like a nothing game. It's just like I feel like I don't really have a ton of comments on it until like the last couple minutes there when I felt like Canada was just kind of lost and standing still. That is the one thing about Canada that was kind of worrying me a bit, dude. Even in the finals, I felt like the first U.S. game, even a little bit against Finland, and in the finals, that they really got caught like flat-footed in their own zone.
Yeah, I
So that made me a bit nervous at times, but um, just because too, dude, like if Finland tied it, that game goes to OT, bro. Sweden ended up beating US in regulation. Like Canada probably wouldn't even made it to the finals.
yeah. It was, dude. It was a worrisome game towards the end, man. Like I was flying out at that time, so I didn't really get to catch all the game. But I saw Canada was up. When I was getting on the plane, I saw Canada was up pretty safe. And then when I got off and I checked the score, I was like, holy shit! Like Finland sort of made it close in the end, man. Like, um, a little worrisome. As you mentioned, Team Canada, for me, yeah, throughout the tournament, there was times where it didn't look like they were sleepy, but it just didn't look like they were like pedal to the metal, right? And it was worrisome at
I
times.
think they just didn't move their feet at times, dude, and they got flat-footed, kind of like I don't like I felt that way in the finals, kind of on like both goals against, like they were just kind of standing there. Meanwhile, like I felt like USA, like throughout the whole tournament, was just moving their fucking feet like all the time.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about this last game. This last game, I couldn't have cared less about it at the time. For me, like you already knew the finals were USA versus Canada, no matter what the outcome of this game was, right? So the way the tournament was, that was the one downside of having no semifinals is the fact that you sort of got yourself in a scenario like this where you have one game, that final game of the round robin, where it really absolutely means nothing, right? But Team
Yeah.
Sweden they won it 2-1 over the USA. All three goals were scored in the first period. What did you think about this game?
I still thought it was like decently intense and like a good game for it meaning nothing. I do agree it sucked that it meant nothing though.
Yeah,
Man, I can't lie. Surprise starter for Sweden, Sam Ersson. He played fucking solid, man. He looked really good. Allmark and Gustafsson were sick, I think. There's a fucking flu bug or something going around all tournament. It felt like every team was affected at some point. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like USA, they rested a couple guys, but I feel like a bunch of their guys were banged up anyway. Um, I don't know. It was a pretty decent game overall. USA had chances to tie the game. Do you feel like that game like had any effect on like USA going into the final, or no? Do you think they just didn't really care?
I,
Like, do you think it's different? They lost the game. Like, I don't know.
it's hard to say, man. But I think from their perspective, like they were more like, "Okay, we're gonna be in the finals, like no matter what." Because like even going into that day, right? Like you already knew USA was making the finals no matter what. It was more just down between Sweden and Canada, right? Like so for USA, it's like, "Okay, like let's get our players some rest."
Well,
Um,
Finland technically could have got it too, but like,
I
yeah,
get, but you know what I mean? Like for USA, they're like for USA, I don't think they cared too much about who they played in the finals. It was more that like, look, we're in the finals. We need to rest a couple guys. Let's get them the rest. Let's get them to be able to be as healthy as they can be going into this finals because it's a one game winner takes all, right? So you want your players
yeah.
being as healthy as possible and as good as possible, right? So I think that sort of they took that into account for this last game. Let's move on and talk about the finals. Man, this was maybe the best game of hockey I've watched since, I don't know, in the past 10, 15 years, dude. Like this game, it was, dude, it was,
Probably since the 20 fucking 10 Olympic final.
yeah, I would agree with that. It was everything you could have wanted as a hockey fan, right? You have Nathan McKinnon, one of the league's biggest superstars. He opens up the scoring. Bam, Team USA, Jake Sanderson, the guy who wasn't even supposed to be at the tournament, coming in. He ties it up. You're going into the first
No, it
period.
was Brady. It was Brady who tied
Sorry,
it in the
Brady.
first.
Brady.
Sanderson gave them the lead in the
Yeah.
second.
Brady, who's been phenomenal all tournament. Bam. Ties it up. You're going into the first intermission 1-1. Second period, Sanderson, the guy who shouldn't be at the tournament. He gets the lead for Team USA. Sam Bennett responds like 5, 10 minutes later, ties it up. Third period, just both teams protecting the lead, defensive hockey, dude. And then you get to overtime, man. Oh my god, dude, that overtime was the overtime is what made that game like just over the top. You have Team USA coming out strong and Jordan Binnington just all of Canada had doubted him all tournament. Like I want to give him my apologies because how many fucking times have I been on this podcast saying like, holy shit, like I don't think he's the guy, man. Holy shit, like Canada doesn't have a guy in that. Like holy fuck, dude, he's the guy in that, man. First he shuts down Matthews, he shuts down Kachuk, he shuts down Matthews again, bro. Like you have one of the best goaltending performances in overtime that we've like arguably fucking ever seen. And then Connor McDavid, the best player in the world, wins it for Team Canada. Like you, if you're the NHL man, that is exactly what you were hoping for in a tournament like this, where it's like we have all these viewers coming in, we have viewers that have never seen hockey. Like that game gave you fucking everything, man. That game gave you the superstars performing. That game gave you good defensive hockey. Yeah, defensive hockey can be a bit boring at times, but like it can also be entertaining, right? Like you have guys like, dude, how fucking entertaining was it watching Slavin and Brock Faber on the ice, man?
Bro, Slavin, I feel like debatably could have won the MVP for the States, dude.
Dude, like maybe he's not the most offensive, most flashy player, but dude, watching that guy play defense, how he puts his body on the line to block shots, how well his stick is, breaking up passes, poke checks, like getting in the corners in those battles, like it is a thing of beauty. And then you get to overtime, you have Bennington and just like you have all these new fans being like seeing how cool a goaltender performance like that can be and like how spectacular some of those saves are. And then it's all wrapped up by the best player in the world, like Connor McDavid, finishing it off, sending USA home. Like the NHL, I don't think they could be any happier about that. Mark, what did you think about this game?
Fuck, dude, you broke that down great. I don't even know how much more I can really add to it, but yeah, dude. I mean, I was a Bennington hater too, but he came up when you needed him most, dude. Like, I mean, I feel like in the end, all the criticism we kind of gave him, I don't want to say it didn't matter, but it just kind of kept us on our toes. But I even felt like the both goals the U.S. scored, like he could have had. Like, I wasn't very happy with it, I guess. But I mean, he made some great saves in OT, dude. Like, there's nothing beating around the bush that like Canada wouldn't have won that game if he didn't make those saves. But I will completely disagree with Kevin BX is saying that no other goalie in the world could make those saves. Like I think that's the most insane comment ever. Like
Yeah, I
I'm sorry,
did not hear
that's the
him
most
talk about it.
ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, so you're saying Bennington's the best goalie in the league now? Like, I don't agree with it, to be honest with you. But I will say, like, I don't think a lot of goalies could make those saves. Um, Dude, it was just a great game from start to finish. McKinnon opens the scoring. So it's just like as a States fan, you're down early. You get two. Then as a Canadian fan, we're fucking down for a bit. Then, dude, I'm going to be honest with you, dude. I thought Sam Bennett was one of their best players in the finals. He had six
Yeah.
shots on net at the end of the second period. Like, I guess I was more after the first game, he was scratched. I didn't think he was that great against the States the first game. I was like, I don't know if this guy's coming back next year. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they can maybe get someone else to replace him. But, bro, he played good against Finland and he was really good against the U.S. Like, he's totally making this team again next year, as long as he doesn't, like, fall off a cliff with Florida. Um, and it's like, dude, even with McDavid, it's just like, bro, I felt like most of the game, like, not that he was getting snake bitten, but he was like going for a shot. It was like last second tipped or something. It was like, dude, this guy's
Yeah.
going to get a chance now soon. Like, but man, the fact that you leave that guy that fucking wide open is insane. Like, I can't lie to you, dude. Matthews played great in the finals, but I have no fucking clue what was going through his head in that moment. Like, that was his guy.
Yeah.
There was nothing that, like, I'm sorry, like, there's no miscommunications, whatever. The defenseman that was closest to Marner was already like below the goal line. Like, that's Marner is
Yeah.
that defenseman's man. Like, that guy in front is totally Matthews' guy. Like 100%. But I mean, it felt like it was one of the only big mistakes US made in the defensive zone.
Yeah, no, dude, like
That
Canada in that
also, but I want to
overtime.
say too that also like people don't realize like that came from an icing. Like they
Yeah.
ice the puck, and usually the US was throwing out for defensive zone draws. They had Slavin, Faber, and then they were throwing out Trocheck with Miller and Boldy, and that was kind of their group to like win the draw, get the puck out, and then you had to go with Matthews, and then Fox was on the ice. And I'll be honest with you, dude, I thought Fox was one of their worst defensemen in this tournament.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was very good at all.
I think I think next year, like the Quinn
Is it
Hughes, of
crazy to
course.
say that he might not make the team next year?
No, not at all. Like I think if Quinn Hughes was to go, if they were to let Quinn Hughes play in the finals, I think Fox like might have been the guy that comes out.
The only other guy I could see them not taking is maybe Hannafin, but
Yeah,
I'm taking Sanderson, dude. I thought
yeah,
he was really
for
good,
sure. He played really well in the finals, dude. Especially like the position he was put in, where it's like
but I'm
that
keeping like
short
Slave and
notice.
Faber together.
Dude, they man, like their defensive play was so like as a hockey fan, and I've been a hockey fan my whole life, right? Like, dude, watching them play defense, dude, it's like artwork, man. It's just it's insane to watch how good they are together and the things that we're doing. Like, bro, like you think there's about to be a great opportunity, and bam, Slavin comes out of nowhere
Dude,
and
Sid's got a
fucking
wide open net, Slave and stick,
yeah,
throws it out. Even the third period, Jarvis 3-on-2, rips a toe drag to shoot. Slavin lays out, blocks it with his skate. Like, dude, it's just these little things, man, that usually don't get the attention that this guy's just so fucking good at. And it makes me just want a defensive defenseman award so bad because I feel like this guy would have been nominated like basically every single season that
he
he's playing. Everyone would say that he'd be like the Bergeron of the Selkie almost.
yeah,
And I honestly don't really disagree.
like the thing too that I loved about having this tournament is that like man, like Slavin for years has been not talked about enough, right? Like we all know how fucking good he is, but just since he's not flashy and doesn't put up a lot of points, like he doesn't get that coverage really that he's deserving of. Where okay, you put him on an international stage and he performs like this, like dude, the whole world's talking about him and how good he performed it throughout this tournament, right? Like Jacob Slavin is I'm not going to say he's a household name now in North America, but like he's a lot fucking closer to that than he was 3.5 weeks ago, right?
I
Like,
know. Well, the people that follow know he's been a stud, but a lot of people don't, right? And the fact that the fucking Canes locked that guy up that's starting next year for 6.5 million or whatever, like
insane.
I know he's going to be 39 once the deal's done, but I feel like by the time he's 39, 6.5 mil is really not going to be that much anyway. And if he's still fucking shit, the thing is with him, dude, it's like the way he plays. It's like, dude, he could be shutting guys down until he's 39 as long as
Yeah.
he can skate properly. Like, you know what I mean? He's not the most overly physical guy. He doesn't put up huge offensive numbers. It's like I could see him doing this till his late 30s. But the only other thing is too is like we've also seen a decent comparable in Vlasic just really fall off as well, right? But I don't know. But I would also personally argue that Slavin's peak it was better than Vlasic's peak. That's just my opinion. I think Slavin's that good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I want to ask you a couple things here, Mark, before we move on and talk about like the overall thoughts of the tournament. First thing is Matthew Tkachuk. He got injured early on in the game, and he only played 7 minutes of this game. When him and Brady were playing together, it was Brady Matthew and Austin Matthews on a line. When they were on the ice early on in the game, like they looked really well. How much did it hurt Team USA as the game went on not having Matthew Tkachuk?
I think a decent amount, dude. Do you think that they would have potentially went with Connor if they didn't know he could play this? Like if they knew that he wasn't going to play that much? Because it changed everything, man.
See, I think they should not have put in Chris Kreider because
Yeah, I
look,
don't
like
really understand what that brought.
Matthew Tkachuk, with how with how well Matthew Tkachuk played throughout this tournament, how dominant him and his brother were, right? Like if you're Team USA coaching staff and you go to Tkachuk and you go, like, are you good to play? And he goes, like, I'm playing. I'm good to play. Like, are you gonna say like, can you say no to the guy? You can't really say no to the guy there, right? But it's like, okay, you have control over the Kreider one, so it's like you put Kreider in the lineup, dude. Kreider, who was not injured, played less time than Kachuk, and he wasn't injured, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's like at least put in. They should have put in Connor for Kreider, so it's like if you do have a guy that does get injured, especially with the USA where like Brady Kachuk was going in that game like bumped up a little bit, Matthew was bumped up, right? Like they had a couple guys that were a little bit injured, so it's like if you're Team USA and you know that, would you not want to go into the game with Kyle Connor where you like you can trust him on the ice compared to Kreider where it's like
I think that Sullivan just didn't trust Connor, though. I think that was a problem, just because he didn't have a good tournament. But my methodology is more like, man, there's been so many instances where guys like don't have good tournaments and they end up like scoring the game-winning goal in the finals or something. Like,
Yep.
I just feel like in a game where it's that close and like how much easier like Connor could score compared to Kreider, I just feel like I'd prefer him in the lineup, even if it is in a bottom six role. Like, I do agree that he didn't play well at all. Like he wasn't good. But I don't know. I also don't really think that Kreider brought much. Like he scored in the first minute against Finland. Wow.
Especially, especially in a game like that, too, dude, where you know it's going to be a close game. Like there is a strong possibility of it going to overtime, where you are going to start to have that fatigue sort of catch up with your team. It's like essentially USA was down to 10 forwards, man. It's like
people were saying like Kreider brings thing that Connor doesn't. Like, what is it? Like, what, dude? They're both fast as fuck.
Like it's just a little bit of physicality, but
like I'm not even that convinced that Kreider is like overly physical though. Like it's not like it's not enough where I'm like it really threads the needle. Like I don't know, fuck, throw him on the fourth line with fucking Trocheck and Nelson. Like I don't know. Like I didn't really understand the decision.
Last question for you, Mark, before we move on. How important of a win was this for Hockey Canada and like Canada as a nation?
I I, I don't think it's as important as if the States had won, if that makes sense. Like I don't know. Like it's just like I guess it's important because like anything less than like a win is almost like a failure in our eyes. But I don't really know. Like the one thing I start just thinking about is the whole like political aspect of it all. Like just all the chirps that were going around and shit. Like I guess it's important in that sense. But like I don't know. Like it's like yeah, U.S. has won the last couple World Juniors. I mean, I don't really count that as much for like dominating international stage. Like the last four tournaments that NHL players have been a part of internationally, Canada's won. So it's like, I don't know, but I feel like personally, if the States had won, it would help grow the game more than it did if Canada won. But saying that, I'm obviously more happier that Canada won. Like, do you think it has a bigger impact than I'm kind of letting on here? Or
I would
what?
I would honestly agree a little bit, disagree with it what you're saying a little bit. Like
Okay.
For Canada, like you mentioned the World Juniors, USA for the last couple of years has sort of been the team to beat at the World Juniors, right? Like yeah, Canada has won the last four best on best international tournaments where like NHL players can go, but like the last one was 10 years ago, right? So it's like I don't know.
So you think to kind of just like kind of be like, okay, this is still us, like this is still
like,
ours, kind of thing.
we were talking about it on the podcast after the World Juniors, right? Like we were talking about like is USA like the country now to beat for hockey, right? And like we had a good debate about that, man. Like we're now with like if Team USA had won this tournament, then I think it's like start to getting safe to say that like yeah, USA might be the team to beat now. And then with the Olympics next year, it's like if they won the Four Nations and the Olympics next year, then it's like you can't even really question it, right? Like at
Yeah,
that point,
I personally think they'd have to do both though. Like
we're now that
before I'd be giving it to
Canada
them.
won, it sort of pushes that back where it's like no, Team Canada is still at the top of the hockey world and like they still are the team to beat, which I think for even going into next Olympics adds like so much fire to watch because it's like man, USA is going to really feel like they. I don't think they're going to feel like they blew this tournament, but they're going to feel like they were given a great opportunity and didn't do everything with it, right? Like
Yeah.
now Olympics next year, it's like whoever wins that game is going to be like really really at the top of the hockey world. And I think it gives us a really great starting point for the next, like you talked about it earlier, we're going to have Olympics next year, 2 years later, World Cup of Hockey. 2 years after Olympics, right? Like this is such a great starting point for the NHL to get back into international hockey.
I kind of disagree with you saying though, like if US won the Olympics next year, like I would not say they're at top of the hockey world though.
Even if they had won the Four Nations as well, though.
That's different. Yes, if they had won the Four Nations, I'd say yes. But now, if they go out next year and win the Olympics, I would not say they're the top of the hockey world. Were people saying
Neither
that
would I.
Sweden was the top of the hockey world in 06 when they won in Italy? Like, I don't think so.
No, more just based off how like hockey, like World Juniors has been going, and then it was only if USA had won this tournament. Like if USA had
Yeah.
won this tournament and won the Olympics, then I think it's safe to say
Like, bro, if
at
they win
that
the
point.
Olympics next year, then win the World Cup of Hockey in 28 and possibly squeeze in another World Juniors in there, like, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But I feel like you almost got to do it like back to back almost if you haven't been doing it like consistently.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say right now at the junior level, they're probably on top. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Even though like Canada did have some guys that were in the NHL that didn't go, to be fair. But yeah.
Let's move on and sort of talk about the overall thoughts of the tournament. First off, I want to ask you, Mark, what players' stocks sort of raised or fell for you?
Raised or fell? I'm trying to think here. So it's like a lot of the guys, like it's not like I'm saying like McKinnon stocks raising, right? Like, I mean, I'd say raise Thomas Harley. Thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Um on the States, I know he's already a stud, but I love Faber. Um Maybe Brady Kachuk a bit too, just because like he hasn't played in the playoffs and shit, and it's like they're kind of on their way there this year. I feel like that's some huge hype. Um, Stocks that fell, Pedersen, Sweden,
Yeah.
even more, dude. I'd say. Um, I don't know. I don't know how many guys are really coming to my mind right now. Maybe Sanderson's stock up a bit too, but a lot of the guys kind of like performed, I guess, like as per normal. Oh, stock down. I'd say Fox, 100%. I didn't think he was that
Yeah.
good in this
Yeah.
tournament.
For
Who
for
are you
me,
thinking?
the first guy honestly is Jack Eichel, man.
Up?
Yeah, up. I think he looked good at points this tournament,
Yeah.
dude. Like
Oh, you know who I'd say went down a bit too? Jack Hughes.
Jack Hughes, yeah.
I didn't think he was that good.
For me, I think even with Eichel, dude, there's an argument to be made that Eichel might be the best American player right now.
You think?
Yeah,
Maybe in this moment, yeah.
I think right now in this moment, like nothing against Matthews, but like Matthews is a goal scorer, not one.
Okay,
goal
would
in
you
this
say
game.
I might disagree if Quinn Hughes was playing though?
That's fair. That's fair. I guess I'll say I'll change that and say the best
I'd say
American
actually I
forward.
probably disagree if Quinn Hughes is playing.
Yeah, best American forward right now. I think
Is it a hot
defense
take to say that like Zach Werenski's a top 4 to 5 player on their team?
on Team USA.
Yeah.
I think he was arguably
Like
their best
even with
player.
Quinn Hughes, I mean. Like even if they had Quinn Hughes.
with Quinn Hughes, he's a top 5 player.
Yeah, and he's even better without
Yeah.
him.
For me, Joel Eriksson Ek, dude, he raised. I think like
Granlund, I think, went up too.
Granlund went up as well as you mentioned. Pedersen for me, his stock dropped a little bit. UC Saros, dude, honestly, like
Down, yeah.
kind of down a bit. Not a lot, but he he had a pretty rough tournament, man. Like
He let in some squeakers.
If I'm Nashville, dude, I'm not overly thrilled with how he's been playing so far this year and what I was seeing at the Four Nations face off. But yeah, for me, the main guys is Joel Eriksson Ek. I think he had a really good tournament, and I think he's sort of starting to become maybe like I don't want to say a star player, but sort of in between being a very good player and a star player. You know what I mean? Like he's not a
Yeah, oh yeah.
star, but he's starting to.
He's like a lower tier 1C right now.
Yeah.
Oh, you know who honestly I think stock went up, dude, who I was chirping a bit for this tournament? Eric Carlson.
He had a good tournament.
I think that the teams might actually be interested if they need an offensive defenseman, if they're going to retain.
And then, honestly, man, the one guy whose stock went up for me too, that's Cale Makar.
Yeah.
I think Cale Makar, like with
Yeah,
him,
he fucking dominated, dude.
dude, with him not playing in that first USA game, and then like seeing how much of a loss it was for Team Canada, and then him being in the finals and how much of an impact he had. Like, dude, on that goal, man, like he like that was such a good play by him, dude. He's
Oh,
going
I
and
know.
pinching there. He could he could easily do something. He could easily make a different play, shot on net or something. But he sees Marner wide open. I'll rim it back around, get the cycle going.
You know who I thought was really good too? I don't know if you could consider stock up because he's already really good as Pareko.
Parenko, yeah,
I thought he was solid. I got a question for you outside of this. So, for the U.S. defensively, I'm on the side of you can basically keep it the same. I'd probably take out Hannafin or Fox or Quinn Hughes. For Canada, it's a bit different now. Technically, three of the defensemen they actually named to the roster originally didn't even play in the finals. What would you do with their defense situation? Um, so Petrangelo didn't play. That was his own choice. Theodore got hurt. Morrissey was sick in the finals. Um, my personal opinion, I say you say fuck Petrangelo. I think Doughty can do exactly what you need there, and probably even better than Petrangelo can defensively. Um, if it was my choice, I'd be bringing back Theodore again and probably taking out Sanheim. Honestly, I'd be down to keep Harley, even if he's the 7.
yeah.
I think he's fucking solid, dude. So yeah, that's what I do. Bring in Theodore, and I'd take out Sanheim.
Honestly, dude, I even think too, like there still could be some other players that maybe aren't fully on the radar right now that potentially could be like
Like
come this time,
Uyghur.
like Uyghur, like if Uyghur plays phenomenal and continues to throughout next season, like
I could see
does
him
he?
maybe replacing Doughty, but I feel like Doughty would have to fall off a lot to be not named to this team next year.
That's fair. The one thing that I do think though that is really going to change in the hockey world after this tournament is like you heard Dylan Larkin, he sort of said for Team USA for World Championships they don't always get the best players going, right? Where now that you're going to have a best on best international tournament every 2 years, like I think World Championships you're going to have a lot of players starting to go and play once they get out of the playoffs or don't make the
Yeah,
playoffs because it's like, man, this is my opportunity. Like, this is my tryout for the Olympic team or this is my tryout for the World Cup team, right? So
100%.
it's like a guy like Owen Power, man, like he's pretty young. If he goes, like, let's say he goes to World Championships this year, has a great World Championships, right? If he has a phenomenal start to next season, it's like, is he a guy that's maybe on Team Canada's radar at that point? Like, he's a big young defenseman, right? Similar how like Jake Sanders,
I hope not, but yeah.
but you know what I mean? It's like, okay, he's a big defenseman. If he has a great start with Buffalo next year and he was on Team Canada at the World Championships this summer and had a great performance there, it's like, is he maybe on the radar a
I
little
see
bit?
what
Like,
you're saying, 100%. Yeah.
it's like I feel like now like with the World Championships and I feel like we're gonna get players going there and really taking that more meaningful now. I think that's gonna really open up the list of guys that we think like could make Team Canada, right? Like a guy like Wyatt Johnson, who we sort of felt like maybe could make Team Canada. Maybe it's a bit young. Maybe he's a bit young. Like, is he a guy that maybe like takes another big leap next year? Like, could he be on the Olympic roster? Like,
I think possibly, for sure.
even with Team USA, all these other countries, I think there's a lot of guys in similar situations. Mark, I want to ask you one last thing here. How good was this tournament overall for hockey, do you think, and the growth of the sport?
Bro, like exceeded expectations by like a mile.
Yeah.
Like a 10 out of 10, in my opinion. Like, I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10, where I think they could have formatted it a bit better with either a best two to three in the finals or a semis, just because that last game didn't mean anything in the round robin. And the other thing I will say, just very unclear on the ruling with injuries of players and stuff like that. That needs to be a little bit straight and forward. But I guess it's better in the end that Hughes wasn't really cleared to play, because imagine he was and then he didn't go and they didn't let him, and honestly, I feel like it just kind of worked out better in that sense. But yeah, those are the two kind of things that I'd say they could probably fix. But besides that, like home run, like, bro, you go on ESPN the next day, it's like all they're talking about all day. Like there's fucking people on TikTok that like I'm like watching their videos and they're like, I've never watched hockey in my life, and I started watching and now I'm watching hockey like frequently and from now on. So like just cool shit like that too. Like, bro, didn't they expect to get like 4 million viewers on Sportsnet or something? And they got like 7.5 or something.
Yeah,
I don't know what the number was, but they almost doubled it is what I saw.
So I know the full number for North America was 16. It was just over 16 million people in North America.
Yeah, but like, weren't they not even expecting 10 or something like that?
I don't know what they were expecting, but it's like
I saw the Sportsnet number and I saw they basically got doubled what they were expecting. So, yeah. But that's obviously just for Canada and Sportsnet. What do you feel about this being the time it is mid-season compared to September? Because, okay, the one thing I will say is I would prefer the preseason, like, because I think it kind of gets it going for the regular season. Someone brought up a good point, and it actually made me think about it a bit differently, is I think that a lot of players would be against it, considering that it's going to really shorten their offseason. And how much earlier they would have to train in the off season to get ready for this tournament compared to a regular season.
See, I kind of get that, but it also, like, guys nowadays are training almost all year round, right? Like,
I think it would just more suck if you went all the way to the Cup, though.
Yeah.
Because think about now, like McDavid and like Kachuk and shit last year had what, like 2.5 months of an off season. Now it's like, bro, if the tournament is like mid-September or beginning of September, like they're probably running team pracos in fucking like mid-August. If there's no season, like, you know what I mean?
That's where I get it, but it's also like, dude, the Cup, like the season goes so late. It's like
yeah.
Don't
it just sucks to see like this McAvoy injury now and like the fucking Theodore one. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like even Matthew Tkachuk, dude, it's like he's bumped up. Like a lot of these players are sort of bumped up while they're trying to go on playoff runs here, right? It's like,
yeah,
and it's the other thing too is like you're going to be doing it for a World Cup and you're going to be doing it for Olympics as well. Like, you sort of have to do it with the Olympics because it's like you're not going to play the Olympic hockey one like 2 months before the Olympics starts, right? But for the World Cup where you do have control, I think you do try to do that in the summer or in September, and maybe we go now to 72 games for that, right? Like maybe we talk about that in the next CBA. It's like, look, we will be committed to having a World Cup of hockey every 2 years in September, but like we're going to go down to 72 games just so it sort of
I just don't know if I see the owners agreeing to that, though.
You don't think so?
72? No, I don't. Because it's 5 less home games that they're going to get, which is less money. And then honestly, dude, I think you're just going to see ticket prices go up because they're losing money. Here's
my thing, though, is that I think whatever money you're losing from those 5 games, if you're committed to having a World Cup of hockey in September every year, I think the growth and the revenue that you're going to get from that is going to be more than like what you'd much.
I don't disagree, but I just feel like for some of the teams that may have more trouble attracting fans, I don't know if they're going to see it the same way.
It's understandable.
This might sound crazy to you. I see the NHL bringing in more regular season games before they subtract. Like I think that the schedule could go to 84 before it would go down to 72.
See, I'd rather see it go down and have this World Cup of hockey. And
See, I would too, but I don't see that happening because everything I've heard Friedman say about like taking games out of the schedule, he just says I don't see the owners going for it. That's what he says every single time. So it's just like I don't know. I think that they care about it so much more than like us we think about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, ideally, it probably would be better. But like, I think a lot of players are saying, like, bro, okay, if you don't shorten the season, like, shorten the fucking preseason. Like,
Yeah,
and you know what I
sure.
mean? Like this has got to get out because it's just useless the amount of games they're playing. I think you need a couple. Dude, they surveyed like I think it was like 60 NHL players, and I think like I'm pretty sure like most of them said they would want 1 to 2 games in the preseason.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really think it's worth it, but I think you need a couple just for guys that are like on the blip of making the roster. You know what I mean? Like I don't think completely eliminating the preseason is the right thing to do, but I think shortening it would definitely help because then you can also get like I was listening. I didn't really want to get into it too much because I feel like we could talk about a different time, like the athletic poll from players and shit like that. A lot of them were like shorten the preseason, start the season like September 20th or like September 15th and get it done by June 1st.
Yeah.
And like, so we can get like 3 months of summer, even if you go to the cup, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I saw a lot of those. I think those changes would be great. I think the World Cup of Hockey, if you can do it in September, that would be the best. And then let the Olympics just be in January or February, whenever the Olympics is there. Have those breaks every 2 years, and I think that would be sort of the best way to do it. And I get the owners not wanting to go down to 72, but I think 72 would be ideal if you are trying to have these best on best tournaments every 2 years. And I get owners like they may never want to do that, but
Yeah.
I guess it is they are the ones paying the bills. So
There's one actually question from this poll I want to ask you though. What
Okay.
do you think? Though this is actual players voting on it. What do you think the most votes was for a team that a player doesn't want to go to? I don't know if it was asked exactly like that or like have on like your no trade clause. What do you think the top team was?
the top team, I'm pretty sure. I think I saw this. I think it's Winnipeg. No.
Dude, okay, I'm not that doesn't surprise me that much, but I'm surprised that they got 3 times the amount of votes as Buffalo.
Yeah, but I think it's because the whole money, the Canadian dollar situation, like the taxes.
There's not much to do. Like
There's shit all. There's shit.
the
all
good thing about the people that are there, though, it's like
horrible
you're so focused on hockey. Like I feel like that's like
Yeah.
a good thing for them. Did you see the comment about the guy writing about the Flyers?
Yeah, what do you say? I fucking hate them.
Dude,
as a city.
he said he said like I don't have a no trade clause, but if I had a one team no trade clause, I would pick the Flyers and I wouldn't think back. I hate them so much, and if I ever got traded there, I might not even play. I was like, who the fuck is this? Everyone's like, dude, is that Sid?
I think next week we ought to do a whole episode on guess who said this comment.
Yeah, honestly.
We ought to put like faces with each comment.
I was like, bro, why does this guy hate the Flyers so much? Like, unless it's like Malkin or something, you know, just fucking.
That's like you with the
hating.
Canucks, dude.
Yeah, I
I
know.
hate him, man. I don't know. I just
Fucking hate him. I hate half the league though, dude. So
Overall, though, that pretty much wraps up today's podcast. Talked about a fair bit here for the Four Nations face-off and everything that happened with it. What a great tournament. Can't wait for international hockey to keep on coming back and even grow the sport even more. We'll be back, though, next week. We'll be talking
trade
about
deadline,
NHL.
dude. I think we got to do like our like leading up to the deadline here.
Trade deadline's coming up. There's Nico Randon sort of rumors going around right now, so we'll be talking about stuff like that. But for everybody tuning in this week, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.